They get hired based on personality. We
Okay.
don't really give a shit about their qualifications. We can teach them what good service is about.
Yeah.
So you asked me about things that had gone wrong, and I will tell
Yeah.
you something so you won't be able to go back and see the original post because we got our Instagram hacked during COVID. And
Congratulations.
that started from a guy on a guitar in the corner of a bar on a Sunday to 10 years later, 5,000 people festivals in the gardens of our, well, not even in the gardens by this point, in the fields beyond our hotels.
Hello team, it's me, Ed Gould here with another unedited conversation, and I've just been listening back to what we recorded in the Black Box studio with my friend Louis. Say hello, Louis.
Hello.
Hello. And it's Lotti Bruce. Lotti Bruce is a brilliant marketing leader who works for The Pig, which is a brilliant hospitality brand based in the south of England but spreading out fast. And this is an absolute masterclass conversation if you're interested in the trials and tribulations, the wins, the losses and the successes and the strategies that you need to build a successful hospitality and hotel brand in today's market. So we're going to talk about everything from getting your social media hacked and losing all of that value through to building from one initial hotel and restaurant into the powerhouse of a brand that The Pig is today. Lottie brings with her tons of experience, a really open and honest conversation, and make sure you listen all the way to the end for a few top secrets and tips from this expert. So if you're ready, we're in season 2. Also look out for Louis' lightning round, of course. If you are ready, I think I'm ready now. Sit back, relax, and let's get ready for another unedited conversation.
Welcome to another unedited conversation with me, your host, Ed Gould. And today we are talking hospitality and lots of things around hospitality with our friend Lottie. Lottie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've first time in the Black Box Studios,
First
Louis'
time,
very
yeah.
magic space. Thanks for joining us. As is often the way, do you want to start off by introducing yourself properly and telling our listeners what you're all about and what you do?
Of course. So I'm Lotti Bruce. So I've been with The Pig for about 11 and a half years now, pretty much most of my formative career. It's gone incredibly quickly in that time, but also feels like a lifetime, I suppose. We've done an awful lot over that 11 and a half years. Before that, I've had a stint in Winchester, sort of marketing the city on behalf of the businesses. And before that, I worked for the department store Selfridges in London in their PR team. Not a huge time there, but certainly a massive influence on the way I've done things going forward. I had an incredible boss and a great team there that have helped, I suppose, just help shape the way I, as a person, have led what I now think of as a pretty strong team, and what I've been doing myself in the way I handle myself in business. I definitely put a lot of it down to what I learned.
And I think it's worth giving the listeners a bit of context about
Sure.
The Pig.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been and you don't know what it is, tell the listeners about what it is, the sort of ethos, the idea, and also a bit about the business side. What sort of scale when you joined and where are we now?
Of course. So The Pig is a restaurant with rooms. That's how it started nearly 15 years next year. It started off with one property, one country house. We've always tried to not use the word hotel. I will use hotel, you will use hotel. Historically, when we first started, it was very much what we wanted to call a restaurant with rooms. At that time, in sort of British hospitality, country house hotels were still pretty dated. A lot of chintz, quite a lot of white tablecloths, long drives, quite formal. Definitely not somewhere you'd want to go and hang out on a Tuesday with your mates for a lunch or on a Saturday night for a cocktail. It was, you were there for quite a special occasion usually, or
A wedding.
Stay, or a wedding. Absolutely.
Usually a wedding.
Absolutely. So the property came as part of a portfolio with another hotel actually in the New Forest. So the first one was in the New Forest, called Limewood, a 5-star standalone. The founding partners of The Pig were working on that particular property, helping the investor there to open that up as a 5-star standalone. And with that portfolio came this other small sort of 16-bed, very tired and run down little country house hotel, so in Lyndhurst, just in the middle of the New Forest. They were going to sell it. It didn't think much of it. They got the valuation back. It was pretty dire, so I had to have a look at it with a fresh set of eyes and think, is this something we actually could do something with? So Robin Hudson, who is, if you're into your hospitality or certainly your industry, someone knows the industry well. He's a pretty renowned name within the boutique space within British hospitality. He started the Hotel Duvan group, made that what it was in its heyday, and has gone on. He was a chairman of Soho House. He's super connected and an unbelievable hospitality entrepreneur. So he looked at this, and the thing that really shone was the kitchen garden, walled kitchen garden, and it was a shame that really it had been kind of almost completely overgrown, dilapidated, let go to ruin. No one was really using it, and the idea came by thinking, how could we use this kitchen garden to service this hotel? How could we make it feel like that house was the living and breathing house it once was in this space? So it was a kind of a light bulb moment, I suppose, really for them at that particular time. Just to reiterate, I wasn't kind of there at this point. It was a couple of years later that I joined, but that's how it started.
And it's a different starting point, really, isn't it? I mean, looking at a kitchen garden now.
Yes.
I mean, now, 15 years later, everyone's got a kitchen garden.
Everyone in the world has got a kitchen garden.
You can't get anything apart from what's in the
No,
you know.
no.
But then it was very different. No one was thinking, how do I go from fork to plate, within the property?
Not at all. I mean, hospitality was big contracts, stack it high, one supplier, bring it all in on a truck, whatever, and it wasn't the whole homegrown eating was not. I mean, it might have been more so in people's homes. I mean, the organic movement was, was up and coming. There were kind of the vegetable boxes and the brand, the Riverfords, the Ables and Cole were kind of in their early stages.
Starting to get going and flourish.
So there was definitely, and again, this is
it's of its time.
It's of its time, yeah.
And that moment, and I think we'll get onto the brand piece later and how that evolves but it was a product and still is. I can remember going there and thinking, this is really different, but incredibly recognisable and comfortable. And that was that sort of fit, and it was an instant hit. And I for the listeners at home, I live in the New Forest, not far from there. I've also got another connection. I got married after saying, and weddings, but the Pig on the beach.
No!
So I stayed there after. We didn't get married in there, but we stayed there for our wedding night and had some stuff.
Incredible.
So
Okay.
there's a connection in our family. Just moments, and I guess it's those moments that you're really trying to capture because that's what we remember from hospitality. That's why you go back often. But where's the business now? So it started with one property, which was what the hell do we do with this?
Exactly. One property, let's give it a go. Let's call on the pet journalists that Robin and the team had known for many years through the Hotel Duvan years, get them in, try and get them to buy into what it is that we're doing. We're creating a restaurant with rooms, simple rooms upstairs, but busy every day of the week. That's what we wanted. And using, when we first started, all the ingredients either were kitchen garden or 15 miles. So we created the concept of what we now have as a 25-mile menu. The first few months, 15 miles was trialled. 15 miles is quite limited.
Unless you want horse.
Exactly. Or you've got someone that suddenly isn't able to supply what you need the next day, and then it's
a real balance.
It's a real balance. So we now, and we still do, and it's still an integral part of the business, have what we call the 25-mile menu. So between 80 to 85% of the ingredients on that menu will all be either homegrown or from a local supplier, local grower, local farmer, local fisherman. So that is kind of the concept, and that is how we have then organically, without wanting to use that word too much, grown the business. It's always been about finding properties that are the right fit for what we believe a pig should be.
And that right vibe and feel when you walk in,
yeah.
however dilapidated.
Maybe
it is. The more the better.
The more the better, probably, to start off with, certainly. And so we are now, so that was one. We are now 9 hotels and a pub. So we have kind of ventured into our first pub space last year. It actually came with a property that we bought and opened last year, and that's been a really exciting new challenge for us to take what we already do and convert it into a slightly different offering. So we're now 10, which is 10 properties which is kind of crazy, really. But we never want to consider ourselves, and this is, the word, if the word chain ever gets used by anybody, it
You get shot.
makes me like, yeah, exactly, out.
And that's, I guess, as a marketeer, that is your big challenge.
Huge challenge.
Because you're talking about a brand that was built out of place. I'm in the New Forest. So how do we make this New Foresty? Everything that you've talked about made sense then.
Yes.
What's it been like trying to scale that out? Because, from personal experience, it's very different when it's place-based.
Yeah.
To do that. So how do you go about in your brain thinking about what are the principles that you try and keep at every single one, and what are the ones that move because it's a different place, it's a different 25-mile radius?
Yeah. So yes, I think what we strive for is a DNA that feels like you want to walk into a space and know it is a pig. But of course, we have to keep evolving with the times. Each pig should feel like it couldn't possibly be anywhere else in the world. So that space that it's in, the community that it sits within, the offering there has to feel unique to that place. So whether that is the ingredients that we're using, the charities that we might work with there, or the cast of characters that create the team, or the extension of the team, the forager that comes to the back door there. And of course, some of that is almost behind the scenes, but I think for our job is to use that as our marketing message,
as your core proposition.
Exactly. So we are everybody, and I sound like a broken record saying we're storytellers. We're not a hard sell business. We're not about slogans and strap lines and everything is that kind of softer storytelling. We want it to be an invitation to people. We're not selling a room. It's an invitation to come in and spend time with us and get to know us, because we think we can give you access to really great people, wonderful food, and a brilliant experience. So how do you harness that for each different property? That comes down to that very first moment that you step on site when you look at a new property and think, is this going to be a pig?
Do you instantly get a feel?
So we've used.
Are you one of the first through the door as well?
Certainly in the later years, I've been involved in that. Right from the get-go, the founder, so Robin and his wife, they're a double act, have been the driving force behind that, and our other founding partner, David, who was sort of more on the brand and marketing side. They had this sort of checklist of things that they knew that if they walked into a building and it had. The biggest one that I find funny is we used to call it the darling factor. So would you say?
I recognise that immediately.
Would you say,
darling.
"Oh, darling, could you
darling.
take me there on a Saturday?" And if it had that, and you could see someone saying, "Oh, darling, could you
and I think
please
this
just go
starts
there?"
to explain to our listeners the type of audience.
Yep.
And I wouldn't say it's all relative, isn't it? I wouldn't say it's uber exclusive or you can't come in, but it's certainly picking a wealthy audience to go towards. It's not the cheapest place to go,
Nope.
but it is full a lot of the time. So is that a product, again, of the places where you pick? Is that part of that decision making? And do you have to nurture the "oh darling" aspect of it, not just in the selection, but in the price and positioning? How that is that consciously being worked through?
Always. I mean, I think when you choose the location, it's got to and the property, it's got to fit both that kind of audience that are London is by far our biggest overnight or accommodation audience come from London, so we've got to make sure
weekend break audience,
weekend breaks, or more and more now people can be more flexible with their timings. So actually the kind of working from home thing has not been it has been quite good for us in many ways, because midweek travel has expanded the audience beyond perhaps.
And do you find you have people coming and then they might work in the corner,
Definitely.
and then their family are there, and then
but yes, you've got to make sure we can get people from further afield who come to stay. But 50-60% of our business is food and beverage, and most of the time that is your chimney pots in the local area. Well, that is your chimney pots in the local area. Of course, residents will eat and hopefully extend their stay. They'll have lunch before they leave. They'll have some drinks in the bar, whatever. But that kind of the beating heart of that business has got to be the people that are coming in regularly. Those locals that make it feel less like a hotel, more like a restaurant with rooms, and they are the ones that we talk about price and positioning. I think actually, even in the last couple of years, really tried to evolve the perception of what we are, because I think people come for a meal or a stay, but actually we are so much more than that. We want you to be able to come and just have a drink, have a pizza.
I think, I mean, my impression of the place, but write in, tell us what you think, listeners.
Absolutely.
Should love to hear.
I
but
think,
I think I'm very aware of it,
Yeah.
but I think I might stop there before going for a walk. Have a drink, and then we go
You sound
take
like
the
our
dogs
dream
for a
guest.
walk.
Yeah,
And then get out quickly.
exactly. Yeah, it's but making sure people are aware of that has been one of our biggest challenges and opportunities, I think.
Okay.
Because it's not fundamentally changing the product. That is what we do. Everything is there for the taking in terms of people arriving when they want, spending time, as little or as much time with us, and we love that. So how do we use that to continue our kind of how do we use that from a marketing perspective to create that open house feel that we want to be?
Yeah, and I think it does it very well, better than a lot of players. There's a lot of people that are trying to emulate. I mean, to be honest, it seems to be what they do now as standard.
Yeah.
So how do you evolve it? How do you keep coming up with something else? I mean, before we and we're going to come back to the business side of it and the scaling side and some of the brand side. But before we came on air for this, we were talking about where we all started and what we were doing, and we were both am-dram or we wanted to be in that sort of field, and we were talking about that idea of curating an experience and you don't have to be the actor to be able to give value and sort of pull together something amazing for people. And you're uniquely placed in hospitality as a marketeer to really be able to do that.
Yeah.
How have you, over the years, sort of developed your approach to that so that there's something new happening and that you are staying ahead and you're nurturing that oh darling experience?
I think the first time we really started to get into something a bit different, to layer on another addition to what we do at the Pigs, was music.
Yeah.
So many country house hotels, wine dinners, formal sit down
Hawking.
Don't even get me see wild
Hawking,
bird experiences outside.
Deck
all of
quoits,
that. Yeah.
If there was a deck.
All of that. They and people. Our founder again is a huge fan of live music, and we were sat around thinking, how do we get that bar buzzy on a Sunday, like Sunday late afternoon, early evening? And this is going back 10, 11 years, and it was it's obvious. You a guy and a guitar in the corner of the room. We did a bit of extra, get the locals in, come and have a drink on us, get the ball rolling. It became so popular. I mean, people absolutely loved it because, again, in the middle of the New Forest and the locations that we started to be in, we got just outside Bath and Studland Bay by this point. People were desperate for that kind of thing. And so that evolved. That started from a guy and a guitar in the corner of a bar on a Sunday to 10 years later, 5,000 people festivals in the gardens of not even in the gardens by this point, in the fields beyond our hotels. That was a journey that
Did you ever think that you'd end
never
up
in a
running a
million years,
festival?
honestly. And
when
by
you think back to your wanting to be a director.
Do you know what's really funny is I have a
amazing
textbook on running festivals, because actually that is what I wanted to do.
You bought
I bought a marketing textbook being like how to run and market
and then you
a
forgot
festival.
that like these books.
Of course, it's still sat in my downstairs loo on a shelf, and I look at it and think, well, you've done that. You've been involved in these festivals. I mean, standing at the back of the stage and watching, like we had Kaiser Chiefs, the Wailers, the Vaccines. Unbelievable bands come and play with us in these sort of small, intimate settings.
And I think what's exciting about that is the idea that you didn't have any bloody right to do that.
No, absolutely none. None whatsoever.
And we were
do
it anyway.
We were not
an
authoritative voice in music or anything along those lines, but we know how to do a party. That is what we do know. We're hospitality. Everyone, we love giving people a good time, whether that's 2 or 3 people or whether that's 5,000 people.
But I think just bending blurring those lines between the hospitality at the festival, they just do the bar and they don't, you don't get involved in anything else. And it also came at a time when actually festivals were almost becoming too big to engage with. Like, I know that sounds like a ridiculous statement, but as someone that loves them, the idea of something small and contained, it gave a whole different audience who will never go to Glastonbury, really.
Yeah.
They're not going to walk 10 miles around the site, but it gave them something to go. And I can remember my mum coming, I've been to a festival with Katie and the girls. And they all went along and they all came back and they saw some awful, I'm not going to say.
Oh, sure. In the early days, probably someone, we started off small.
James Blunt. I don't know.
We've never had a James Blunt.
It was something near that. And I was thinking, wow. But the idea of stepping outside, when we pull it back, and if you're listening to this and you're sat there and you're working for an IT company and you're thinking this has nothing to do with me, it is. How do you step outside what's expected and do something a little bit different? If you go too far, people will call you out and go, what are you doing? But if you just stretch it that little bit, I think that festival is a great example. Suddenly you add so much value and meaning to that brand. I think it was really masterstroke.
Well, it was, and it was a way to get back into whether the inboxes or the social channel followings of people that might come once a year.
Yeah.
And
give
go
me
back
a
to,
reason.
give me a reason,
to
come
come back.
And you were talking about price point again, at a price point that isn't necessarily. You can buy your ticket for 30 quid and you can come along and you can listen to live music all day, and it was staffed by all of our own team members. So if you were a regular or a local, you might see them behind the bar. It still feels familiar and, like you said, accessible, great for families. So it was a sort of really fun and not taking ourselves too seriously way of reconnecting with people.
So coming back onto that subject of how the business is scaled, now it's private equity owned. It's a much bigger concern. It's a real serious business suddenly. You've gone from one place where you go, well, we put a guy with a guitar in the corner, to suddenly it's very, very grown up, and it has new excitements, new challenges and all that stuff. But that sort of founder-led energy and then moving into this new space, is there still the freedom to do those things? Is it maintained that? How have you had to evolve to change with the changing structure and framework of the business over the years?
I think, it comes with a different level of energy. I mean, it's entrepreneurial, and is entrepreneurial energy, or working for an entrepreneur, who's been a part of that, is that day that you literally don't know what 2 days next to each other are going to look like, because they can come in and
Welcome
go, you know
to my
what,
life.
scrap what we talked about yesterday, I've had a better idea, let's do this. And you've spent the whole day yesterday working on something and you think, okay, great, well
I think Louis in the background will recognise that trait in some people here.
So it's an amazing learning, ability to learn to be agile and think on your feet and come and have the trust, which was a big part of that, to get on with things and to move things forward and to come up with new ideas. I think luckily there are enough of us in the senior team left, and the layers of people underneath have been a part of this business for a long time. It shows a great love that there are so many of us for the brand and what we've done it for all these years. So there is a trust from the PE team, and that we understand what we should be doing and can be doing. What it has given us is sometimes either new what's the right word? A new belief in ourselves that actually what we are doing is great, because someone's invested in us, and they're like, great, they love what we do, and they're really positive about so much of the things that we choose to do or ideas that we come up with.
Well, if there was someone listening that is in an organisation, they're going through a merger, they're going through an acquisition. I mean, you've gone through this and it's changed it's not a merger and acquisition, but it is a buyout, so it's changed. What advice would you give them?
Good question. I think you be uber open-minded. I think I said this to you the other day. Change is inevitable. Change can be really, really good, and I'm sure that anyone can say that. From a kind of personal perspective, the brand for me is everything. That is I sort of take as my role. The kind of, in my heart, I'm the sort of the brand guardian, the tone keeper, the person that says, should we be doing this? Should we not be doing this? And I think for me that I've been able to keep that and keep pushing that and have that deep inside of me, that my belief in that
staying
is
true to
what we are and what we do.
I think that's really good, because sometimes when things move around you, sometimes there's people try and move with it. And sometimes they move off what they really are good at and what they love, and then they go, well, I'm not very comfortable anymore.
Yeah.
When actually what you're talking about is if you keep those pure values to yourself, if you're wanted, you're wanted, but at least you've never
At least I've not
compromised
compromised on what it is that I love
compromised
doing.
with-
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that would be, you've summarised it very well in words that I didn't even sort of know that's what I was going with. But that's exactly
I didn't
what
know I was going to go with
No.
them until just then either. So there you go.
But that is, I think for me, and obviously we are questioned regularly. New ideas come up. We're challenged regularly. And, I think in my world, I look at that as a good thing. Why, yes, we should be challenged. You don't want to stick doing the same thing over and over again. So I don't think we ever would. We're not that style of business. And
Well, in a
we've
way, it
not
keeps
grown
it
up.
evolving,
Yeah.
doesn't it? It keeps it changing. And I know.
Why have you done something like this? We've had this a lot. We always call things it's the pig way, and it's very difficult to explain why we do
so
that.
in other businesses, there's this idea. Well, we always do it that way, and I go in, and my job is to go, why?
Why exactly?
Why?
Well, then it's that, and it's having people come in and do that. And sometimes it's not like, okay, great, we're really happy. It just would be good to understand why. Other times it's okay, fine, but have
Do you
thought
ever,
about
when
it this
you're
way?
questioned like that, so if you're anything like me, and if you're listening to this, you might recognise it, you defend to the hilt
Of course.
what it was, and then you're sort of going out for a walk later, or 3 days later, you sort of go,
You go on that little curve.
yeah,
forwards.
maybe, and then you go in the next day, I've just had an idea.
Yeah. And
It's my idea.
Everyone sits back around and goes, oh, thank God he's finally got there.
Exactly. But that's about bringing the right people around you. And I think one of the things I wanted to come on to at this point is how do we build the right marketing functions within a changing team? So you're telling a story about a super successful hospitality brand. I'm sure it's got challenges, but on the surface, for instance, your founder was in business with Gerald Basset, who's was good friends of our family. And Terravino have got set up at a similar time. They came from that Hotel de Van. I'm not going to cast aspersions in any direction, but keeping things fresh and evolving those things, not everyone rises to that challenge in the same way. So how do you surround yourself with people, the right type of people? How have you built that marketing function as the person that's in charge of all of this? You started on your own. How do you do it now? Because there's many more places. What's the actual strategic approach to resourcing that marketing function?
I think we've had to grow and evolve as the business has changed. I've had a number of people that were with me for a long time, some very new, fresh blood that has joined us very recently. It's had to go, I think, with where I have known that we've needed to put more investment or more effort. So it started off, everything was very brand-led. We weren't going back to the hard sell message. It needed to be the right tone of voice. We needed to have the right kind of email marketing, but it was someone that could understand that, who could get under the skin of what the business was at the time.
So for you, it's about them getting
getting
you and the
me
business.
and the business and the brand, and being able to communicate that. As we got further and things got more technical, you bring in online booking, for instance.
Suddenly you start someone that knows more than you.
Exactly. And you start to, since I started, and it'll be the same, maybe the world of digital marketing from when I started to what it is now is a completely different mindful. I was doing the Instagram posts, obviously, and Twitter and everything on day when I started for the first couple of years. I would die if I had to go back and see some of that kind of level of what we did. But that was really what
So
it
if you're
was.
listening to this, everyone now go back
well, no,
to
actually,
the original post.
You asked me about things that had gone wrong, and I will tell you something so you won't be able to go back and see the original post because we got our Instagram hacked during COVID, and
Congratulations.
That was one of the worst days.
Or was this a cover up?
I wonder. So you won't be able to go back and see what the first ever posts were because it all got taken away from us, and we had to start again.
So you've brought a team around you that can do those things. So is there different people at each place? You've got sort of, or is it all centralised?
So it's all centralised.
Okay.
It's all centralised. I currently have a team of 7. They're in-house, but I think it's really important to realise, and like you said, you can never have all the skill sets you need in-house. I need good people that can manage, direct, and look after agencies. So we have a number of different agencies that support us across the kind of full breadth of organic, social, the full kind of digital marketing aspect, but also just the real tech stack that we have in terms of being able to drive, a serious revenue
Ongoing
through our
nurturing
website. I mean, we
and
are.
what are you doing that through? What sort of technology are you using this?
So we are, as a hotel, hotels predominantly get booked by third parties.
Yeah.
So most sites you go on your Booking.com, your Expedias, your Mr. and Mrs. Smiths, whatever. We do 60%, well, actually, sorry, 95% of our business comes direct. That is, not many people doing that, unless you're a one-man.
Can I book through Booking.com? I don't, I'm not, so it doesn't come up.
No, one property in Southampton, so Pig in the Wall does, because that has a very different level of business. It's a much more fluid. It's a city
Transient,
centre, exactly. Fluid business bookings, people that need to book on the day to stay
So
somewhere in
when did
Southampton,
you decide? So as someone that's, I'm assuming, making that decision, were you on it and then you went, "This is nuts. We're getting shafted on the margin."
We've never done third parties. So from
Interesting.
the get-go, the only third party we worked with, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who were very small when we first started working with them.
They're
They were,
absolutely huge
they're
now.
absolutely mammoth now. Our room rates when we first opened was sort of almost sub 100 sometimes, like 99 quid, 120 quid. The only way you could do that is if you're then not hacking
Losing
off
another
commissions
15, 20%.
Exactly. So it enabled us to be a really accessible price point for a vast number of people within, in our both our market, but also at that particular time. We've tried for a very long time to keep the rates as low as we could, and not adding commissions on was a huge part of the decision process of that.
And so the tech stack that runs all of that, is that is it a platform?
So it's a customizable, yeah. So we have. I mean, you have to have your property management system, your table management system, your spa management system.
So you have to become an
And
expert
then
in all of that as well.
I am no expert in that, but I try very hard.
I was blowing smoke. Yeah, I'm an absolute expert, Ed.
Oh no, absolutely.
But you have to
not.
have a grasp of why it works
of course,
and what good looks like, and you have to
absolutely.
have people around you that you can look at and going, "Are they telling us
the
right thing?" Or
Yeah, and we've changed it and chopped and changed things over the years. We've had, we're about to go live on a new website, which will be my third website with this brand in that time, which almost doesn't feel quite enough, but it's we are where we are. It's really exciting, but that is a huge piece of the puzzle, and it sits sort of between us and our sort of IT and revenue and commercial team. But so yes, I have to have people within the team that are able to juggle all of that side of things, but also who just really get a cellular level understand what we are about, live and breathe that brand,
that
so
culture.
that when they're creating a flyer to go in a property, or
you're not having to remind them what the feel needs to be of that. That's in, and I think that word fit. I mean, it is a brand, and if you're listening to this and you go and check it out, go and have a meal there, go and see how it matches up the experience of what you're looking at, and then you go through the door and then you speak to some people. They've got some very fancy sommeliers that don't like. I'll digress slightly and tell you my pig story.
Go for it.
Which my friend Jay Puddy, who might listen to this and then laugh, enjoyed immensely, which is when one of your sommeliers said, would you like some help choosing the wine? And I made the mistake of saying which is great, but then I tried to ask a question which I've been derived for ever since. I went, and is that got good cut through? And the sommelier said, that doesn't mean anything. And so the whole table of my friends now, anytime we order a bottle of wine,
so is that good
cut through? Sorry, I digress.
I don't mind, because I love stories. And I'm
digress.
delighted that the sommelier he just went that.
But this, we talked about team and we've talked about the business bit, but we're also talking about the experience on and off. With, that's an experience I remember. And every time he says, "Oh, have you got a good cut through?" I'm subconsciously remembering the pig. And it was a great meal and it was a great day. And it's so hard to create those moments by force. With that sort of feel bit you were talking about, for me, it's almost like, as a marketeer, and I work on loads of different things, it is what you're aiming for, because people buy what why you do it. The feel piece is so important.
It's always been for us about the operation. We've always considered ourselves as like, we're there to support the operation. That is what people come.
Reflect that experience.
Yeah, and that's what people come for.
Yeah.
They want the biggest thing, and like every compliment we ever get as a business, or any press write-up that we get, they can talk about how beautiful it is, they can talk about how amazing the gardens are, but it is the people.
The target is the people.
The guys and girls and everybody that we have working in those hotels.
Do you consider them part of your brand kit?
They are.
Are they like part of the puzzle?
We will. We always.
Do you work with them yourself
yeah, very
in
much
terms
so.
of tone? And...
Yeah. Oh, the thing is, it's they get hired based on personality. We don't really give a shit about their qualifications. That we can teach them what good service is about.
Yeah.
We can get them under the skin of why we do things the way we do, and that comes down to a phenomenally good people team and how they train and what we train versus they train culture, and they send them out to meet suppliers and do cheese tastings and wine tastings, and that's how people. And this, our teams are really young. Gives they come to work because they just love it. It's fun. They're learning something every day, and they meet interesting people coming through the door as a guest. So they are our actors. You talk about that creating an experience. They are our actors every single day on that stage.
It's quite unique. I mean, if you think about, there'll be people listening to this that work in B2B marketing, and they'll go, well, our people, I wouldn't put them in front of anyone and they don't need to.
No.
And it's about this sort of recognition about what are the levers I can pull to affect positive change. And in hospitality, in season 1 of UnEDited, we talked to someone from Prezzo. It's a very different sort of that is a chain, and her challenges. And I spoke to her off pod as well, but the challenges there were really about trying to build out that experience piece, so that because if you think about it's a great restaurant chain,
but it's an in and out.
But it's an in and out.
Yeah,
it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
It's a different aim.
Yeah.
So they're still trying to deal with these questions about what's the experience like, how do we do it in a way that also gets them out in time so we can bring the next.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's so much variation even within that sector.
Hospitality completely.
But as a marketeer, I think it's really interesting to think about that director's role, and I think we all should think about that more, because we have teams and we've got great people, but the fluid nature of the industry, the way it's changing at such a pace, means really when we're hiring at the moment, we're hiring for flexibility and acumen and sort of personality as well. Yeah. Because if anyone says they know where it's going next, I think they're full of shit.
Yeah, if once you've got good people give good service. They are, they invest in what we do, and we I'm sure look, not every single member of the team would have had a glorious experience. We get that, that's life and reality, but we do try really hard to look after them, to nurture them, to culture them, and we've had our own kind of internal homegrown entrepreneurs scheme, which helps them, someone that might start in the most junior of waitress role or sommelier role, rise through the ranks and end up, so some of them are now hotel directors. It's about keeping people because we want to invest in them and love them, because we know it's a really hard market out there to bring good, particularly in the locations. I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere across, rural locations across the south.
Well, that was the other thing I was wondering when you were talking about, you need the right conurbation of people around you. Often you're in places where there isn't that huge volume of people around you. I guess that's where that strategy of picking smaller properties and you don't want to go too big. But is that part of that decision making as well?
Of course, I think it's always got to feel intimate. It's always got to feel. One of the things if anyone ever says it, if anyone does copywriting for us or something, and they put it's got to feel like a home away from home, and I'm like, no, it doesn't, because most people do not live in houses like this. It's got to feel like you're coming to your best mate's house, your crazy auntie who lives in the countryside's house, and it's got to feel intimate enough and relaxed enough that you can therefore
feel like you. But it's not your house.
But it's not your house.
Special.
Of course, exactly.
Otherwise, you may as well stay at home.
Exactly. So it's still going to be a bit of a treat. But I think we've worked from the moment we open a property, or even way longer than that, in the lead up, in the 6 to 8 months before we open a property, everybody zones in on that property. So we'll get the team in place really early. We'll get the hotel director in place. They become a member of that community. They're out meeting the movers and shakers, every business down the road. We're out making those supplier connections that we need for the 25-mile menu. we are immersing ourselves into that local community, and that kind of those roots that you put down when you therefore get a space, you start to the ripple effect is amazing, and you do meet these
Do
phenomenal
you now
people.
plan it in that way? I mean, if there is a Gantt chart somewhere, is there sort of pre-launch and then there's the launch bit where everyone's going nuts and the most effort's going into it?
Yeah.
Then you've got that maintain sort of bit. Is
Exactly.
it now down to a fine art?
You know, it's so that is not written down anywhere.
Right.
That does not exist. There is no printed
As
handbook.
a great marketeer, would never write down a plan.
No.
No. Okay.
Obviously, it's still, I mean, from a marketing perspective, we have a very good watertight checklist of what needs to happen when, what the lead time is on certain things. But
that rhythm sort of
exists. And again, that is the benefit of having people that have now done
Yeah.
many openings. You know, if you put us all in a room, they say when they don't put all the royal family in one room, if you put us all in one room, something happens, it would be a bit more challenging. But we have a rhythm, but it is about investing into that community that we're moving into and becoming part of it. I think if you go all the way back to the discussion we're having around how do you keep the kind of the differentiation in each one, that pig in that area has almost got to feel like there isn't another one that exists to that group of people. Obviously, we want to benefit because they love it on their doorstep, and therefore they want to go and explore other pigs. So you do get the benefit of that. But to them, they will feel own ownership over it.
And for those listening, not watching, Lottie enjoys moving her arms around.
Sorry,
a lot.
I might
so
keep
you might
this.
hear a couple of knocks on the microphone.
Sorry.
But that just shows how passionate she is about marketing the subject. Right. Before we get into the last bit of this, I warned you earlier, and it is season 2 of the UnEDited,
yes, here
and
we
we've
go.
got Louis' lightning round. Now, Louis is off camera, hiding in the dark again. It is the blue button. Is that right, Louis?
Green. Yeah, blue and green.
There you go. Blue and green. He shouts
Okay.
in the distance. Let's see what
That's
happens.
No time to think. No messing around. Get your answers ready. It's Louis' lightning round.
Wow. Here we go.
That was the intro. I love it.
And do you want me to press pink?
Green.
Green. Well, he did say all the colours, listeners.
What's the most outrageous thing that's happened at one of your hotels?
Oh, God.
Goodness me.
That you're allowed to answer.
Goodness me. I mean, even only 2 days ago, I was hearing some pretty outrageous stories.
I guess all sorts of things happen, but
It's
it's
a
like a
hotel.
doctor. You're like a doctor.
I'm obviously never going to be, I think many people ask, okay, I'll go with this one because this
Go
is
with
quite
the
a
safe
well-known
one.
one. I'll go with the safe one. We historically have never taken dogs.
Okay.
Most people are up in arms about that. Why would you be a rural countryside property that doesn't take dogs? Incidentally, we have started taking a few dogs since last year.
Nice dogs.
Nice dogs.
Okay.
We have a few rooms at each property that would take a couple of dogs because we do recognise that people like to travel with their four-legged friends. But we started having them at the very beginning, and we've got these, as you will remember at Pig on the Beach, these amazing outbuildings, which are double-heighted, thatched roofs.
That's what I stayed in.
Perfect. And there was a whole terrace full
Felt
of
like
people.
Cinderella.
All sorts of people. And I think out of the first floor window, absolutely catapulted himself a dog. So kind of flying out of the first floor window. At the same time as having completely trashed the bedroom and all of that inside. So it's a bit of
Landed
a story.
in the garden.
Exactly. A bit of a story as to why we did stop taking dogs
Now,
for a while.
everyone that is listening, there is a great example of how you avoid a really dangerous question, because I'm certain much worse things have happened.
We're a hotel, but lips
Stuff
are
goes
sealed.
down. Okay, let's hit number 2 and Louis' lightning round.
If you were down to your last £1,000, what would you spend on marketing?
So if you've got £1,000 left in your budget, what are you going to spend it on?
That is a good question.
You could go paid, earned, or owned.
I would spend it on creating some really great, strong content, because I know that we've just started. Historically, we used to run all of our organic social in-house. And at the beginning of this year, we took on an organic agency.
Okay.
Who are super agile. We've loved working with them, and the difference that having really well-made video content has given us in how we can communicate
Really
our message
freeing.
is really unbelievable, and how we can, how you can repurpose it and reuse it for all sorts of different things. So I think if I had £1,000, I'd create some unbelievable video content and certainly use that across everything that I could possibly use it across.
So if you're a video producer with
Yeah.
low daily rates,
Yeah, exactly. You know
get in
where I am. Yeah.
contact. It's a tricky one at the moment, isn't it? Because there's so much noise.
It's so much.
But I do think that earned, and that includes video,
Yeah.
you know, to an element, you know, finding a way of making that content hit in the right way. I just think it's a no-brainer. It's usually the area with the clients that we work with that they've invested least in over the years, and so it's definitely a growth area.
It's paid dividends for us.
Would you bring it in? How would you have? Are you thinking about how you? Oh, don't say it out loud in case the agency hears it.
No. I think at the moment we
don't need to.
They don't need to. I would have to. So what we get from them, we get 3 or 4 different people working on the account, all of them perfectly capable of creating the content.
What makes a good agency for you to work with? I should listen to this.
I think what makes a good agency, I think they just have to show a real investment in your brand, a real love for what you do. They are an extension of your team, and so what they're doing has to show as much love for what it is that you do.
And what are the tells? When it's bullshit versus,
Well, let's take the agency I'm talking about, the social. They have gone over and above every single time with everything, and I know that is, you kind of we would want that from anybody, but to learn about us, to immerse themselves in what we're about, to if we do pick them up on things that aren't quite right, learn from that really quickly and not make that same mistake again, and
not be too precious.
Not be too precious about it, and go, you know what? Great, that is your brand. We just want to help tell that story for you. So I think being agile,
it's
from an
similar to what you want
from
from your team.
Completely.
And I think that's interesting because often, not in the old days, but there was a time where they were very different. And we talked off camera earlier about my approach to this, which is increasingly that they're all the same thing. It's how do you pull together the right team from inside your business, from outside your business, from round the corner, from the post boy that's usually not allowed to do anything but has a good idea. How do you create a function that's open to that? And usually you need some guiding principles. And what I love about yours is about that feel and understanding sits at the heart of that. So I think that's really cool. Last Louis' lightning round question.
What's been the biggest challenge to your marketing plans?
Oh, that is a good biggest challenge to my marketing plans. Usually budget.
Budget. I mean, you're never gonna speak to a marketer that doesn't go, I'd like some more money to spend. I'd like some more money.
I think sometimes the thing that I find the most challenging and the most frustrating sometimes is the way that tech can get in the way or hold us back on certain things we want to do. I don't think we've never cracked quite the kind of the email marketing as brilliantly as we could because we haven't necessarily the right system in place. I think sometimes that for me, budget is one thing, but having the right infrastructure to do what you want to do effectively.
I think it's not just tech; it's the marketing industry as a whole loves making barriers for itself. So the more that over the years I've been doing it, the more that we've fragmented and specialised. It just adds a lot of weight. So everything from the number of people you have to have the same conversation with, through to the number of reasons something can't go ahead and work. And there's this guy, I'll never remember one of the first advertising guys in the US, and I'll forget his name. And someone listening, if you recognise who I'm talking about, you'll win a biscuit if you write in about this.
What kind of biscuit?
A bourbon,
Ooh,
I think. The king of biscuits. What's your king of biscuits or queen?
Or chocolate hobnob, maybe? No, not for you.
Anyway, back to the story. But he talked about having a direct line between the product and the customer. And what often we do is we add complexity between those things. So you go, all right, and then there's a system, then there's an HR, then there's risk, and before you know it, the gap between the customer and the product has become really big. So a lot of the stuff I try and get people to do is go, what if you took all of that out? And what if you literally had, and so Cars with Goals a founder-led agency, and it's actually a family business. So my mum started, but one of the lessons I'll always remember, and we were talking about it earlier, is that sort of Simon Sinek idea, which is you always leave a chair for that customer. But the next step up from that at the board table. So every time you're having a meeting, my next step up from that is take everyone else's chairs away.
Yeah.
Just literally have that customer sat in front of you and understand what's going on. And I think technology, software vendors, we've had some great speakers on UnEDited on season 1 on digital transformation, and you can go back and check those out. And I have a lot of clients that do this, so I'm risking to say they are culpable in overcomplicating some of these processes. And what I find is when you're dealing with those challenges, you just need someone that's agnostic, that sits outside all of that, that isn't paid because they're part of that or part of that, just to sort of work through that tech stack and go, okay, what can get cut out, what can't, and where does all
really
of this link
important?
together?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is a challenging one. And budget, yes, is if you ask any agency, that's definitely the one they're going to say. Okay, let's we're going towards the end of our time, but I wanted to sort of think about where things are heading, and it's both for you. Well, actually, let's do 3 for you. For the industry, it's hospitality, but also how you see sort of that marketing function develop. So what are you excited about? What's coming next? And what are you hoping? What are your predictions?
Look, despite having been there for a long time, and you've been here in your business for 30-something years, so I'm preaching to the person who
you can still survive.
But I've still got unbelievable energy for what we do, and I think, to me, the investment that we've had in the last couple of years, what that gives us is the kind of that next chapter of what is the pig? What could the pig be? It
Could
doesn't
it be
have
international?
Could it be? Well, we've talked about that on and off a lot.
Really?
I think there's still so many people in this country
Just
that don't
promise
know what
me
we
you're
do.
not going to pop up in an airport
No.
anytime.
No. If I'm still there, I can promise you that.
Yeah.
But what does the pig evolution look like? We've just done our first pub. Is that something that we think, is there space for that? Where is there white space in the country that hasn't got a pig yet? That's what we're, people that don't, we're very southern.
I'm looking forward. Here's my pitch: the pig glamping site.
Well, that is also, we've discussed that. I mean, I can tell you most things.
I'm in if you want to go on that one.
Probably talked about at some stage. So
and that's always the battle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when you've been in, as you said, I've been in this business a long time. So you realise that new people come in and you're sat there and you've got to stay fresh, but you're having the same conversation that you had 5 years ago. And you're going, that's a great idea.
We've had that conversation, but I think it's about the right place, right time of
so it's recognising have the factors changed and is it more relevant then?
Yeah.
So do you see are there plans you can talk about? Will it expand a lot more? Is that the idea? Or?
So we've got a couple of properties that are sat in the pipeline at the moment. We are rather plagued by planning. They're beautiful old heritage buildings, and that's definitely become harder as the years have gone on to be able to.
It definitely seems to be something that continually stops progress.
Yeah, huge.
Rather than, I mean, you're dealing often with properties that are probably listed or have some sort of.
So one of them is Grade 1 listed. The other is next to a kind of medieval burial site. I mean,
bats
there's
in
bats.
the belfry.
You literally took the words.
The
bats. All of those things. So they're there. We are ready. We've got plans in place.
I guess that's part of the cost, though, of having that sort of vibe.
Yes. To create that. So I suppose then we have to question ourselves. If we don't find quite the right property, or what does that right property now feel like 15 years on to us as a pig? Or do we go, we have a little boutique property in Southampton, do we look at evolving something? It's the greatest thing right now is, I think, even in a couple of weeks' time, we've got one of our first sort of sit-down sessions to really start to think about it. But at the heart of it, what we want to do is continue to bring what we know people love as the pig into places that don't know us quite so well yet.
And how do you feel about, as a marketeer, and we talked at the beginning about your route into it was not traditional in many senses, but the work that you've done over the last 12, you've done a hell of a lot of, you've definitely earned your stripes, I think is the right way of saying
Team
that.
effort.
Sure. When you think about that, though, what's your predictions for the industry? There's lots of chat, there's lots of stuff going on. Do you think more about the hospitality industry than the marketing industry, or does the marketing industry and what's happening in that affect and involve you? Does it interest you?
It's a really good question. I think I probably think more about the hospitality industry.
That was
than
the vibe I was
the
getting,
marketing, because we market. I almost don't say we've never really called it marketing. You know, it's not really traditional marketing what we have done, I suppose. In the we don't have big marketing calendars that plan out what we're doing months in advance. Everything is kind of done or has been done. We're being more structured. We have to be. We're a much bigger business. We've got people that we need to report into more perhaps than we have historically, but everything was done on gut historically.
Yeah.
Why would we send something out when, or we see the business isn't quite responding how we want it to at this particular time? What can we do quickly? What interesting creative thing can we do?
That's still marketing.
It still is.
That's definitely
But I just don't use a
marketing.
single acronym or a kind of marketing jargon to describe any of it. But
and I think to contextualize it, marketing now, the term marketing has almost been reduced to what I talk about when that is everything about communicating, deciding
and
that price,
what
that
brand
pure
is.
marketing. And that's what the guys that when they stood there and looked at the kitchen garden, they were thinking about marketing. It's 100%.
It is. So I think I suppose because we are very operationally led, most people in the business have come through the operation. Most of the discussions we have tend to be about hospitality and where that industry is going and what people want from the experience now, and what going back to that discussion earlier around people making sure that we're kind of that open house feel, that people can come for whatever it is that they would like to come for, and make sure that we are there, present, ready for them to be able to give them what they want in that particular moment. I think London hospitality and rural hospitality can be quite different things in many ways. We're not sat turning tables super quickly like your Prezzo guest. We want people to linger. We want people to stay around. And so we're creating a different experience to that kind of guest. But it's it is super competitive now. There are amazing pubs with rooms dotting up on different corners.
Think of something like the Newt.
Oh, I mean, the Newt has absolutely smashed it. I mean, they are a phenomenal business, and they are, their
you're in trouble when your wife goes, "Can I have membership to the Newt?" To go. Just to go. And I thought we both needed membership. Yeah. Turns out we only need one, so I bought two.
Oh my god!
So I double booked. But it's the Newt, for those that are listening, is a really good example of what we're talking about, kind of on steroids. Yeah. Like a whole, and the level of investment that's gone in there from they were magazine owners, I think, originally.
Exactly,
they're media owners.
South African family-owned
but
business.
If you do check out the Pig, but also do check out the Newt, and then think about the differences from a marketing standpoint on those. It's a very different world again, and hospitality does have that sort of unique. Every single one of those things is a challenge in its own way and its own. Okay, let's round off. And I always like to ask, is there a bit of advice that someone's given you over the years that you sort of stand by, that stands out, that you think you can pass on to the next listener who might have stuck around to the end of this podcast to hear it? If you're listening, here it comes. She's thinking.
I'm thinking. We've been given lots of advice over the years. I think I don't want to go back to what I said before, but maybe this is a very personal thing, but I've always chosen to work for businesses that I have a real love for, or I've targeted them and gone after them because I think they are super cool in what they do. I love their vision, I love their values, and that has kept me engaged and motivated. And yes, I know sometimes it's not quite what you see behind the scenes is on the
behind the candelabra.
Yeah, exactly. But I think making those choices, and when something wasn't right, I remember whether it's my own advice to myself or someone, but when something isn't right, I've moved on because it didn't sit with how I wanted to live my life. So whether I've chopped and changed uni a couple of times because it wasn't quite the right thing, or decided not to do the acting because I realised at that time it wasn't quite the right thing. I think being true to yourself. I know that's a very personal one, but that has completely, and therefore that's what
there's no wrong answer.
No, and that's what I've put towards our brand, and that's how I feel about what I do now with
See
the
that.
pig.
Well, I think it's been fascinating, and it actually makes a lot more sense. Like what I've experienced there, talking to you, it's obviously something that you've been passionately shaping for quite a long time, and it comes through in the experience. So if you are listening to this and you are in one of the areas, what's the areas? Give it a shout out for all the different pigs.
Oh, we've got one in Kent. We've got one in West Sussex. We've
Boom,
got one in
boom.
we've got one in Dorset. We've got one in Cornwall. We've got one in Somerset outside Bath. We've got where have I missed? We've got Kent, Sussex, Southampton, New Forest.
They've got a lot, guys.
Cotswolds.
They've got
Yeah,
a lot.
there you go.
So I'm looking forward for the Scottish whiskey version.
Everyone says Edinburgh would be a good one. Yeah, or somewhere near.
But thank you. We've
Thank
come to the end.
you.
I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And if people want to get in touch and about anything, do you
Yeah.
want to say never darken your door?
No,
Or-
absolutely. I'd love people to
Okay.
get in touch.
So we'll put the careful what you wish
Yeah,
for.
I
There's
know, yeah.
they're a wonderful, wonderful crew, the listeners to this, but I bet there's a few weird ones. And you know
I'll
who
watch
you
out.
are. You know who you are. So we'll put in the show notes some contact details. But Lotti Bruce from the
Thank
Pig
you.
Hotel chain, not chain.
yes.
Let me do that again. Lotti Bruce from the Pig Hotels. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining us
Thank
on
you
the
very much.
UnEDited podcast.
Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap on another episode of UnEDited. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. Find all of our updates on your favourite social media and podcast platforms. Just search for the UnEDited podcast.